Hello, everybody. How are you doing? I spent the better part of the day, Sunday, out in the shop, just goofing off, really working with the metal lathe. And I was actually working with acrylics on the metal lathe. And I made a pin body, and you can't really see it too well, but take a look right up here around the lips. See that shiny area? Kind of how it's kind of got a little lip on it. Let me show you what happened. Take a look at the glue now. See how the glue goes all the way around? What happened is I'm on the mandrel. This is as far onto the mandrel as this blank will go. Notice that gap right there. Your collet chuck is right here. So I had all of that gap. And if you look at this end, take a look at that catch. I was using my skew and I got a bad catch. And I think I had a little bit of run out possibly. I know it's kind of hard to see, but I did have I don't like to use a live center on these, or 60-degree center, because it puts a dimple in it. What I use to hold them is the piece from my mandrel saver. And I just usually bring it up nice and tight, and I must not have had it tight, or it must have loosened up a little bit. And I think I had a little run out, and I got a little catch, and when I did, it spun this onto the mandrel, and when it did, it split right, the threads go into about here, and it basically just split and ran on up the mandrel. So I glued it back together. I don't even think you'll see that once it's finished. And really it's just a pin I'm making just to learn anyway. The body is only about this deep on the inside. So all of this out here, I should be able to turn away and fix. I'm not too worried about that at all. But what I am going to do is I'm going to make a collar just out of a piece of scrap, probably a little piece of scrap wood that I can put on here, and I can run this right up against it because I'm only turning from here out. I'm not turning the threads, so I'll just butt them up against a nice little piece of wood, and that will keep me from, if I have a catch again, I won't drive it quite so far onto the mandrel and pull it apart like that. While I was at it, I also made, and I haven't finished it yet, I need to put it back on the lathe and finish shaping it, but I started shaping a section, and this is a cap, and it's on the mandrel right now. The issue with the cap is I need to, let me remember what I needed to do to this cap. Oh, I remember now. This mandrel is a new one that I started making. My old mandrel is bent, and what I need to do is I need to run a die up on here, and on the back section here I need to put some threads right in this area up to this little red mark. The issue is I could not find my die holder, or my die handle. I have a complete set of taps and dies, and I can't find them. I think I probably loaned them to somebody when they were over, and they just haven't returned them yet. So I went online and I bought a die handle that'll take 1-inch dies, because I have a 1-inch, I have a 1-inch die that I can use, and I'll put some threads on there when it gets here. Should be here later this week, so maybe this weekend I'll fiddle with it. Put some threads on there, and that's my new mandrel. My old mandrel, here it is right here, and this is essentially what it looks like. But it's bent a little bit. And what I was doing is I had it on the metal lathe, and I was cleaning it up to round it out and take the wobble out of it. And I'd got to thinking, if you look at it, and it's hard to see there, it's thicker on one side than it is the other. So bottom line, that was an effort that just wasn't going to make things any better. So I grabbed a new piece of aluminum stock and made myself a new one. Basically, the whole day, I didn't record a single thing. The whole day was just about playing with the lathe, getting comfortable with the lathe. I want to learn how to make, I bought it to make these kitless pins, and that's what I want to do. It's kind of funny. I'm not turning the whole pin on the lathe. I can, but I'm turning the blanks on the lathe, and then I'm trying on my wood lathe to turn the rest of the pin. We'll see how that works out. I've always had a little trouble with the wood lathe not being real accurate, so we'll just see how that turns out. But I'm just going to goof off a little bit tonight and kind of work on that body, see if I can get it shaped up. If I have time, I may work on the section. Unfortunately, the cap is going to have to wait until the tap handle or the die handle gets here, but I will keep you guys posted. Let me show you what I came up with. I went ahead and took this piece of acrylic and I drilled a hole. It was with an S-bit, and then I tapped it with an M10-1 tap, and then on this side I've got threads for it's M13.8, I think. So basically this will thread onto the back of the mandrel, take up the space, and then I can put my body in. As I thread it in, it's threading onto the mandrel, and then it threads into the spacer. So when I thread it all the way on, and I can't do it with one hand because the lathe wants to turn, when I thread it all the way on, this sleeve will be up against this spacer. That'll keep it from being able to tighten down and jam down on there, and should make it a little easier for me to turn. I think that little spacer is going to work out really well, but I think I'm going to have to remake this mandrel. Let me show you why. It broke again. It broke right at the joint, and I just used CA to fix it. You know, I was just experimenting. I probably should have used epoxy. And I may go back and fix this one, but I want to show you one thing. Take a look at this. When I turn this lathe on, I grab a parting tool, and if I lay it on the collet chuck, it runs nice and smooth. If I lay it on the mandrel, notice it bouncing? All that I can figure is whenever I had my catch, I must have bent it. I mean, it's just a little old piece of aluminum, so there's not a lot of rigidity there. Not a big deal. I'll make another one. The bad thing is I'm still at a loss for a a die holder. I can't actually, with the tap and die holder that I have from Neil's Butterfield, it's solid on the back, so nothing can pass through it. So I just need a handle so that I can put threads on these mandrels. So that's cool, though. I mean, it's a whole nother learning process. It should be here, like I said, later this week. I'm just going to find something else to mess around with for the time being. Hopefully something centered around the metal lathe, because I'm just trying to learn how to use it in different techniques. Everything went super smooth making the pin blanks. It's just getting to my old lathe, finding out I had a bent mandrel, bending another mandrel. Just the bad luck I'm having over there. And that's nothing against the lathe. It's not its fault. It was my catch that caused it. But I think I may just go ahead and break out another blank and see if I can make me another pin blank. So we'll see what happens. And just like that, I've got another pin body blank ready to go to the lathe and be shaped. I've got my section that really just needs a tiny bit of more turning on the nib and then some sanding and polishing. I'm really happy with this body because look how smooth that is. I'm getting better with the lathe, and I'm getting a lot quicker with that metal lathe. Now the cap, I still need to turn all of this, round all of this out, and you know, once I get my mandrel, I'll be able to do that. Won't be a problem. I probably will go ahead and round it out on the metal lathe because it turns slower, and I've got this bit, this cutting bit that I've been using, and let me get a better shot of that. And I sharpened it up really sharp on my my Wolverine, or I'm sorry, my CBN wheels, and it's like super sharp, and it cuts so nicely. It puts such a nice finish on the pin or on the blank. There we go. And I couldn't be happier. So I probably will, once I get this mandrel made, I'll go ahead and put this back on the lathe, and I'll just clean that up. It just seems to be a lot less aggressive on the metal lathe. But look at that, a really, really nice finish. I mean, that's probably ready for, I don't know, I would probably hit it with 220 and just start going from there. I'm done for the night. I just needed to come out for a little while and, you know, just burn off some energy. I've been extremely busy lately and getting kind of stir crazy, so I needed something to do, and this was a lot of fun. I'm having fun fiddling with the lathe. I think the next thing up on my learning curve here is tapering. Now, I tapered once before when I was making a pin nib on this lathe, but I don't remember how I did it. I need to go back in and relook at my notes, kind of do a little research, and I may start actually tapering the body. I mean, if you take this, you know, the body of this pin, there's no reason why I couldn't taper it from front to back and give it a nice shape right on this lathe, and as well as the cap. So, and I'm really enjoying this lathe now that I've got it working. One of the things I haven't done is started using the screw. I don't know, I just haven't started really using it yet. That's something I need to add. One of these times when I'm making a pin is just, you know, set the gears up, flip the screw on, and let it just go ahead and eat. But it's actually kind of fun turning the knobs, or I'm sorry, the little handles. It's a lot of fun. It's really relaxing. One of these evenings when I have some time, I want to come out to the shop, and I think I'll set up a live video and just basically from start to finish show you how I make one of these kitless pin blanks, you know, so that it's all ready to go, ready to be turned. The turning is just, it's kind of free form, but this is kind of neat, and I got a lot to learn. I think I'll fiddle a little bit longer with it, learn a little bit more, but I think it'd be kind of fun just to kind of show my process. I'm getting better, I'm getting faster, and that's what I want. I need to be able to make a blank relatively quickly. A lot of that is two things. Number one, I've got my instructions, learning those instructions by heart. I still have to go to the paper for every step. I haven't learned it by heart. That slows me down a lot. And number two, I've got the drill bits over there. I've got things in the drawer. I keep having to dig for stuff. I think it would be best to set out, here's all of your cap parts. Here's all of your section parts. Here's all of your body parts. So that way you can it's right in front of you. You can just grab and go, and that will really speed things up. So I think those are two things that that I'm going to work on, because I really want to get quicker at doing this, because, this is the boring stuff, getting, the threading and all that, getting it ready to go. The fun stuff is when you toss it on the mandrel and go to the lathe and give it a shape and polish it, sand it and polish it. That is the fun stuff, because that's when the pen really turns into something special. But that's it for me, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. Have a great evening, and I hope to see you soon.